what's up guys, it's Dr. Zed, and thanks for tuning into the channel. In today's video, I want to cover the topic of discs, also known as intervertebral discs, or basically IVDs, the disc between our segments of the spine. But if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Now, in an earlier video, I actually covered kind of like a statistics video regarding low back pain, and some of it even included some disc issues as well. If you haven't already done so, be sure to check out that video. I'll put a link in the description in this video below. Now, before we actually get into any of the injuries and what's going on, let's talk a little bit about anatomy. Now, of course, we're going to pull up our Essential Anatomy app here. Let me just get that ready for you. So, what we see here is we got the lumbar spine. I already cut out everything. I cut out the thoracic spine, the cervical spine, all the connective tissues, everything. All that we're left with is the low back, the lumbar, as well as the sacrum and the coccyx. Now, what we also see here are the connective tissues. Now, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to tilt this down. And we see here, we kind of got like an eyeball here. Now, what this is the IVD, also known as the intervertebral disc. Now, if we highlight it real quick, see we have the intervertebral disc. This is the disc that was between T12, which is the last segment of the thoracic spine, and L1, which is the first segment of the lumbar spine. Now, here on the outside, we see we got a white fibrous kind of material. Now, this is known as the annulus fibrosus. This is more fibrous. This actually has the springy and it's more durable. This is where the durability of the disc comes from. Now, the inside, it doesn't actually highlight, well, actually it does, perfect. Nucleus pulposus. This is the gel-like consistency, and this is the part that actually will end up herniating when your disc is injured. Now, this is more of the shock absorption component of the disc because it's more fluid than the annulus fibrosus. So now if we just hide this so you can see right under it, that is the next segment. So basically this is all that's present between each segment of the spine. So now that that's out of the way, you know what we're talking about. So what is a disc injury and how do we typically injure discs? Now, the most common way that people can actually injure discs are what's known as flexion, when we kind of bend forward, and rotation. That's probably the best way to injure your disc because that's a lot of load. First of all, flexing the disc puts a lot of pressure and a lot of tension on the back of the disc because we're stretching those fibers in the back when we're pushing it forward. Now, also twisting puts a lot of tension on those fibers in the annulus fibrosus as well. And sometimes what ends up happening is those annular fibers will start to tear. Now, we might not feel them until they get out to the external fibers of the annular fibrosis, because the annular fibrosis actually only has pain fibers in the outer 1/3 of all those fibers. So if there's tears deep inside the disc, we probably won't feel them. Now, what happens is, if the fibers are tearing in the annular fibrosis on the outside, we're going to start to have some pain. And this, first of all, isn't your typical nerve pain that you would experience with a disc herniation. This is more commonly known as something that's called deep referred pain. The pain from the disc itself is referring to certain parts of your body. Now, in the low back, that typically refers down into the buttock and sometimes into the thigh as well. It's more of a dull, aching pain. However, in some extreme cases, the nucleus pulposus will actually herniate out of the annular fibrosis. And when it starts to contact the nerve roots, which actually hit here, but then you can see the sides of the holes here, where between the between the segments and right next to the intervertebral disc, that's where the nerve root coming from the spinal cord exits the spine. Now, you see how it's extremely, extremely close to that disc. Now, if that nucleus pulposus in that disc starts to come out, it's going to irritate that nerve root, and then you'll start having some nerve symptoms, commonly known as sciatica. Basically, when the pain starts running all the way down your legs, sometimes you get numbness, tingling, and weakness. Now, when it comes to disc injuries, you have to understand that most of the time, it's not from any single macro trauma, such as a motor vehicle accident or a fall from a great height. Most of the time, disc injuries arise from what's known as micro trauma, built up through time. Simple poor posture, or basically any kind of poor lifting mechanics, can actually put a lot of strain on these discs. Like I said, bending forward all the time and twisting. A lot of factory workers end up having disc issues because they're always picking up something over here, twisting and dropping it off. Same repetitive motion over and over and over again puts a lot of tension on the disc. So it's all of these little micro traumas through time it tears the fibers little bit at a time, and then finally, they always call it the straw that broke the camel's back, simply such as bending over and picking something up like a straw even can cause your back to just go out and then puts you out for a couple weeks, sometimes even months. Now, what are some things that we can actually do to help with disc issues? Now, remember the mechanism of injury for disc issues, and that's bending forward and doing some twisting. This puts a lot of tension in the fibers on the back of the disc and also forces the nucleus pulposus, remember, to come out the back, sometimes hurting the nerve roots. Now, what we need to do is actually we need to go the other way. Now, a lot of people might think that my back hurts if I stretch forward like this, it's going to help. That's not the case. The more flexion we do when we have disc issues, the worse it's going to be for your disc. What you want to do is you want to go into extension where you start arching back. Now, what this does is it kind of decreases the tension on the fibers in the back of the disc and also forces that nucleus pulposus back towards the center of the disc. Now, going along with this, what we want to do is what's known as extension. So we can actually do this on the ground, on the floor, on your bed, or anything like that. What you want to do is lay on your belly and kind of bring yourself up using your elbows. Sometimes, if that's not enough, you can even go on your hands. What this does is it arches your back this way and it deloads that disc. You can also do this against the wall or anything flat. You can just put your elbows up like this or like this and just press your hips into the wall. Just by doing this, it arches your back, creates extension, and again, deloads your disc. And there you have it. I hope you found this video very informative and fairly easy to understand. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. And until next time, guys, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay alive.